You are loved. My goal is to share people's incredible stories in the hopes of encouraging you to keep going no matter how hard it is, and to show you how loved you are by your Heavenly Father. This week, I have the honor of sharing with you Valerie's story. Valerie's biological father left when her mother was pregnant with her, which left a hole in Valerie's heart. She lived her life believing she was unwanted and unvalued. She searched for ways to fill that hole with things like drugs, parties, and men, but nothing satisfied her. Her world was turned upside down when she found out she was pregnant. There was a little voice in her head telling her all kinds of lies, like what a horrible mother she would be and how she was a complete failure. At one point, she considered ending her life, but a different voice caused her to keep going. Watch to find out whose voice that was and what exactly it said.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Valerie Millsapps, and I have been born and raised here in Blount County for all my life so far. I grew up in church, a little country church we grew up in, so we were there every time the doors were open. But my life really kind of took a different turn when I was 8. I grew up in church. My dad was a deacon. My mom served in the church very actively, but it was my baby book that I would sit down in our living room floor and open it up and read that my dad that was in my home for the last 8 years was not my real dad. So that led to a lot of questions of why did my dad leave? Who is this man that's loved me for the past 8 years? So my mom sat me down and had a conversation and said that your biological dad left when I was pregnant. So that really opened up a kind of a door for the lies of the enemy to kind of plant a seed that I wasn't wanted, I wasn't valued, even though I was in a loving home. But I kept searching for that, and it really kind of started when I was 8.
Wow. So where did that lead you in life? How did that affect your growing up?
It's kind of ebb and flow. So I was active in the youth group growing up, but it was always just that question that always lingered. When you're out in the community, you always think, oh, could that be my real dad? I did see pictures of him. He lived local, and ended up getting to meet him in 2015, and we have a relationship now. But then I just was always searching. So it was like an empty hole that I always tried to fill, but still tried to grow up in the church and kind of be religious. No, there wasn't a relationship. Just kind of doing the things that I saw my mom and dad do. But there wasn't ever a relationship there yet. It was just trying to walk and talk like everybody else around me was. And that started to grow as middle school, high school, just always trying to find my place. And in youth, when we were growing up, we used to do this skit, and it was there was a box of sin, and you kind of dabbled around it, and you kind of would dip your toe in it, and that was my life. So I would just it was kind of a slow, walk into sin, and then I found myself completely falling in a dark pit that I didn't know how I was going to get out of it. Wow. So it was just trying to find myself, and really when I turned 18 is when I really turned in the opposite direction. Because I was 18, I'm like, I'm free, I can do whatever I want, even though I still lived at home. So I started just kind of searching out for just kind of fill that emptiness. But the thing was, everything that I've tried to fill myself with, drugs, alcohol, parties, gone for weekends at a time, it still left me completely empty. So I still tried to search what would satisfy. Everything that the world that offered just completely continued to leave me empty. Then it was sex outside of marriage. My parents didn't know if I was dead or alive because I would stay gone for weekends at a time. And not knowing but Mom and Dad would be praying for me when I wouldn't come home for the weekend, just praying that I was safe. But I did come back home, but it was not in the way that I had imagined. I had taken a pregnancy test in my friend's bathroom apartment, and it was positive. So those friends I had been running with that said that they were going to be there for me weren't there for me. So I found myself completely alone, and not knowing that there was a pregnancy center just 3 minutes from my friend's bathroom apartment. It wasn't talked about in our church. Nobody really talked about sanctity of life or where you could go if you were in need. So I really thought I was the only person going through this.
Wow.
I did go back home, and my parents didn't talk to me for 3 days. Now, being a parent myself, I know now why they didn't talk to me for 3 days. But they were supportive. They were there. They provided a roof over my head. But I really felt very isolated and alone. So I did go back to church and started trying to get back in the cycle of things. But it was still the same. And it was when I was 8 months pregnant that I realized things needed to be different. So
tell me a little bit more about how that change occurred.
So I was really like, how am I going to be a good mom? I don't even know what that looks like. I don't know what to do or anything. But I knew who knew all that. So it was after church one Wednesday night that church was over. There was a little light from the hallway that lit up the sanctuary. So I walked in, and it was just completely broken, and I fell at the altar. And I can remember just crying there, just me and myself, where I thought I was by myself, and it was just like, Lord, you are going to have to save me. You're going to have to help me, and you're going to have to do this because I can't do this by myself. And I felt a warm touch on my shoulder while I was just laying there. And it kind of startled me in the moment, but I looked around and I was there by myself. Wow. But I knew that was my helper. The Holy Spirit was there alive and well with me and let me know that I was going to be okay. But after that, things don't change immediately, and I really thought they would. So I continued to go to church, kind of continued going to the motions. But the most important thing that I remember looking back was my Bible kind of stayed closed. It was still collecting dust on my bookshelf, or when I carried it to church. It was never really opened and just seeing what he really had for me. So I continued to listen to the voice that it's trying to steal, kill, and destroy. And so when my daughter was 1, I was driving home one night. She was in the back seat, and it was just negative thoughts of, you're a horrible mom. You can't even afford to pay for diapers. How are you going to do this? What a failure you are. It was just like a repeat cycle. And I was like, I'm just going to end this right now and just take my life. So I was going to drive my car off the side of the road and thought it all will be over with. So I was crying and holding on to the steering wheel. And in that moment, I heard an audible voice that said, I see you. And it wasn't like all the other lies that I had been listening to. It was the voice of the Lord. And it was the voice of truth. And so I started crying, and I knew that I knew he was there for me, and I knew he was going to be there for her as well. So that slowly started to turn things around. I started really hungering for that voice. It's like, I want more and more of that. So I continued to be more involved in church, just trying to seek out, where did that come from? What happened to, I know that I was a believer at that point, but how can he continue to speak to me? but my Bible still stayed closed. So our pastor, we went through a change at church, and we had got an interim pastor, and his mom played matchmaker, and she introduced me to her son, and we just hit it off, and he just loved Kaylee as his own, and I knew that he was going to be my husband. So we had a little brain fart here and there. We broke up with each other, but we found our way back to each other 2 years later, and we ended up getting engaged and getting married, and he adopted her as his own. And he went through some, he had a diagnosis before we were married. It's kind of like with the sports teams, you see people drop over dead, and they had a heart condition that they weren't aware of. And that's basically what he had before we got married. So I knew that if, forever long that he was going to live, we were going to enjoy, our marriage. But God healed him.
Wow.
He is a walking miracle in himself. But through that, I remember when he was diagnosed with that heart problem, it was a true beginning of my faith journey, because I remember laying my hand on his chest at night and just saying, Lord, if you can hear me, will you heal Jason? And looking back, it's like, he heard my cry. Heard my cry when I was pregnant and thought I was all alone. It just pulled me out of the dark place that I was in. And he pulled us out of a dark place that we were in then, started getting in the Word and just reading his truth, and just became alive in my life.
You opened that Bible finally and dusted it on. And
just allowing him to speak to me through those pages, and to see his face right there in my hands. It's just beautiful. And just to watch and look back of, that faith, that building, continuing building of my faith, and still today. And it's incredible to watch that, to look back at that.
I love the journey. It wasn't a moment. Like, you had moments with the Lord, but it took some time. It took some seeking, and I love that. So tell me how different your life looks today. Tell me about what you do and where your life is at, and your daughter and everything else.
So when we got married, we decided to find a church of our own. So that was a journey in itself, just to look for a faith family, because we had grown up in just a family church, and we knew it was time for us to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So that is a journey in itself. The Lord knew just that timeline and that, but the Lord started to really speak to me as I continued to be in His Word and just serve in the church. It was like, you have a story. You need to share it. And I was very comfortable of, Lord, you can have this half of my body, and I just still want control of the other half. So He's like, just that little nudge of, you need to share your testimony. So at that point, Kaylee was his. We were a happy little family, and I'm like, why mess that up? Why share my past with anyone? And I would even have dreams of just sharing my story, and just really just freaked out about that, because I'm like, there is no way that I'll ever get in front of people and share my story. But He continued to just pull at that. And during that time, we were at that church for several years, and ended up, I did share my story, because the Lord's like, I don't want you to share what you did. I want to share what I did in your life, how I pulled you out, how you came to know me and glorify me. And so I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I shared in September. That's the month my daughter was born. So it was kind of just really sweet to share that and honor her at the same time. her birthday month, and the church had never been involved with the pregnancy center that I connected with. There was surprisingly one right there in the community that was 3 minutes from my friend's apartment. So I connected with them, and it's like, I think I want to share about your work, and what can I do? And they were like, well, you could share your story, and you could do a baby bottle campaign for us. It helps raise money for their centers, it's our community funded. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. So the pastor was on board, and we did the baby bottle fundraiser and shared that month. And so I was like, okay, God, I did what you want me to do. I'm done. But he's never done working on us. So after that, we ended up moving. God called us. But looking back, it was him moving us for sure, because we were at the church that we're still at today for probably about a year and a half. And the Lord started really working on me, and just in my life, and just to share. And I wanted to be involved. I wanted to serve. But at that time, I had a very nice, great job, cushiony, job, and comfortable. And I was like, I can't, serve during the day. I can't volunteer. But what else are some other things that I could do? But just trying to make an excuse. And still trying to give a little bit to the Lord, and I'm going to do what I want to do. But we started going to that church for a while, and it was like a movie that I would watch of myself where I got saved at my home church years before that. And the pastor would get up, and it was during Sanctity of Life month, so January, big month at that church. And it happened every Sunday. I would watch myself fully surrender and be sold out to the Lord, him touch me, save me. And I was like, why are you doing this? Why do you keep bringing this up? And it was like a movie that I would watch Sunday after Sunday. And the pastor would get up and share about ways to be involved in the pregnancy center. And I was like, my husband thought something was wrong with me, because I'd be a hot mess every Sunday crying. I was like, I don't know. I'm having these thoughts of when I got saved, and I don't know. So I'd leave. So the last Sunday at that church, the leadership of the Pregnancy Resource Center was like, this is open position, and they were hiring. And I was like, I think this is what he might be doing. So my husband's like, I don't think so, because he's pastor's son. He's grew up in ministry. So it was really going to be the both of us, deciding that, it's ministry. It's a leap of faith. It's difficult. He's walked through that of being a pastor's son, growing up and just witnessing all of that in ministry. It's hard. Yes. And I was like, but I think if he's calling us to it, he's going to take care of us. And that's before really just having my eyes open to spiritual warfare. But I was like, if he's calling us to it, he's going to provide 100%. So I applied, and here I am 10 and a half years later. They say that pregnancy center, those that serve, that are on staff, and especially in a leadership role, you've got 3 years and you're done.
Really?
So the warfare, it's hard. I remember going to a conference. We had won like a scholarship to go. It was my first year, and they were recognizing men and women that had served in their community for like 20, 30, 40 years. And I was just watching them, and I was like, just talking with the Lord as I'm watching these men and women be honored for their service to the Lord. And I was like, help me be in it for the long haul. And so it's pretty much like clockwork. I've been through 3 cycles of burnout period, I guess. And it's the enemy can't think of anything new.
Right.
So every 3 years it's been really, really hard. And that's just attacks from worldly, people that don't understand, just not knowing the truth of what we do. It's like an analogy of having a shovel and like trimming hedges. It's like, here's the pregnancy test. Oh, well, you're just doing these things. You're just trimming and sending them on the way. But we're really the shovel. Like, we're getting in, hands dirty, feet dirty, all in to serve these families. Because a lot of us, it's us.
Right.
And we don't want them walking through what we had to.
Right.
We want to help them. They're lost, and we're just seeing God move, and it's like, I'm not backing down from that.
Yes.
I want to honor Him, and they hate Him.
Right. Not yet.
So, and I'm going to continue to share the truth. The world is telling them all kinds of things, that they can't do this. So you just need to take the easy way out, cover it up. Nobody ever has to know. And that's what I was told. Just get rid of her. Nobody will ever have to know. But we've seen the people where they've been told that on the other side of it, and they're broken and they're hurt and they're wounded. And to be able to walk in that too with them, and on a path to healing, and just being just totally set free and delivered from wounds of their past. And it's awesome to watch. You've seen their face before, and to see their face with so much freedom, I mean, it's worth everything that we face.
It's amazing, and it's so, God is so purposeful to turn our pain into His glory, and He took literally what you struggled with and the pain that you had, and now He uses that to reach people just like you. And that is just so cool how He does that. And so because of that, you have a unique relationship with these women, because you've been in their shoes and you've walked where they walked. And I think that's very impactful. And so if you could, like, what's your number one thing that you wish someone had said to you when you were in that now you have the opportunity to say to people in that same situation?
I think the big thing is you're not alone, and you will think you're the only one going through this, and it's a lie. Not only are you not alone, you have people, an army of people that you have no idea that is ready to walk alongside you, to help you, to pull you out of where you are right now, and you will look back and think, man, I can't believe how far I've come. And not only that, just while you're pregnant and after you have the baby, it's like, we want you to thrive, you and your partner. You and a lot of them get married in the process, you and your husband. So we have men that serve with us. And with just the rate of fatherlessness in the world, it's an epidemic. And so we have men serve with us too. And so guys think they've totally messed up and they've missed the mark, or they've never had a dad, or they don't even know how to do this. And even the men are like, you can do this. And to the women, because a lot of them, they don't have parents in their life or their family. Even the community that supports us, we don't get state or federal money. So it's like, there's an army of people that are for you and want to help you and see you thrive. And it's like, once they don't believe it at first, but as you walk with them, they start to believe it. And when they get to the other side of it, then it's like, I can do this. And then connecting them with the local body of Christ. It just helps extend our work.
Right.
Because, we can't do all of it, but it's just locking arms with the community, the faith-based community to help carry that on. And it's really amazing to see people just support in that way, to walk alongside them.
That's fantastic. And I love that, just knowing you're not alone. Because when you are broken, often that's what the enemy uses to tell you, to then get you to isolate more and then feel more alone. And so that's beautiful. They're not alone, and they're loved. And we always like to talk about love for a minute in our interviews, just because we have the world's definition of love and then the believer's definition of love. And I was hoping for a minute you could just talk about what you thought, what the world told you, what you thought love looked like, and now today, after your experiences, what true love looks like to you.
I think for just me, just walking through, and a lot of people feel this way too, is love looks like, what are you going to give of yourself? Very self-focused. So I was giving of myself to drugs, alcohol, sex outside of marriage, and I was destroying myself. So once I realized that wasn't fulfilling me, the world says that is so fulfilling, but it will leave you empty. So realizing that wasn't the answer, and knowing that there was the answer, and knowing who could fulfill that, and that was the Lord. Just knowing that, I've messed up, and the beautiful process of love is realizing you've messed up and you've sinned, and just repenting of that. Like, I've messed up and I need you to wipe that away, and He does. And that is very fulfilling, to know that all the things that I've done to mess up, He has washed that away and made me new. And He can do the same for anyone else, no matter what you've done. No matter if you didn't carry through a pregnancy and maybe you made a different decision. He paid for that on the cross for us. And that's the most beautiful sacrificial love that we can ever experience.
Yes, it's beautiful. Wow. Valerie, I'm grateful for all the work that you do, and I know the women are too. So tell me what's going on right now at the Pregnancy Resource Center.
So we have a location here in Maryville. We have our mobile clinic. We had an upgrade just at Christmas. That's totally community funded. We knew that we were outgrowing our current mobile unit we had, and it was just like we said it, and the Lord provided through His people. The cool thing was when Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022, we knew that there was going to be a larger need, but the Lord always has things worked out. So the spring of 2022, that was just before all that happened in the summer, we were gifted a building in Sevierville.
Wow.
And the funny thing about that is 2019, I was looking in my prayer journal, and I asked the Lord to give us the biggest mountain, the hardest city, the biggest giants, because I know He wants His glory known. So I'm flipping through in 2022, and I look back in 2019, and I see that prayer. And I was reading in 1st and 2nd Timothy, and because it was one of those years I was just getting hit, and it was just like just powering through. And so I wrote that. I don't even know. We weren't even looking to go anywhere. So when we were being given the keys to that location, I looked back and saw that, and I was like, this is Sevierville.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no. I know He wants His glory known, and I will tell you, just as hard in general ministry is, but Sevierville is like night and day. we've continued to grow in that area. We have a little house on the corner in Sevierville. So if anyone's ever been familiar with our old location here in Maryville, where we used to be for many years on Old Knott's Ferry Road, we moved in 2019. But you take that house that we were in years ago, you cut it in half and you remove all the parking. That's Sevierville. And we are growing. There's tons of opportunity up there. There's a lot of people moving in that area. There's a lot of immigrants that are coming in that area. And we are being bombarded for it's a lot of brokenness. And we need volunteers. We always need volunteers. But we're praying about a new location up there, whether that's land to build or just a new building up there. But we're kind of busting at the seams at that location. And I know God has brought us up there. We're seeing families saved, people get rededicated. It's just amazing what He's doing in the midst of all that brokenness. And you think, oh, well, Sevierville, that's where you go to relax, go have fun and
vacation,
all those things.
Go to Dollywood.
And it's like, but just beyond the curtain is a broken, wounded community. And our heart is for people to really turn the lights on and see the brokenness outside of the city of entertainment. And so that's our prayer, is people will be stirred to serve. And the churches up there, and just more people would like, I have to do something. Because there's more people that we need to get their hands and feet dirty.
Yes.
For the Lord. So
they can just visit.
Yeah.
Just stop by one of them, give the Resource Center a call, and there's volunteer opportunities.
Yes, right on our website, youmakeherbrave.com. They can get connected there, or on our Facebook page, or Friends of East Pregnancy Resource Center East TN. They can get connected there, reach out, or stop by one of our locations, and we'd love to get you plugged in on how you can serve with us.
Can people still do baby bottle campaigns? Can they still get involved in that way?
They can.
That's so cool.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Well, we're going to encourage people to look into that, because I think this is such an important piece of reaching people, and because alone and pregnant can be one of the scariest moments. And so having someone to walk with you is so important and just give you that hope. And so I'm so grateful that you were willing to share your own story of how you did that, but now that you've dedicated your life to reaching those same people. And so I just am very grateful that you agreed to come on and share, and also just for everything that you do with your life. So thank you.
Thank you.
Wasn't that a great story? It reminds us of the importance of both praying moms and dads and opening your Bible, not just letting it collect dust. I loved when Valerie said that our story isn't really about what we've done, but it's the story about what God has done. You got to hear a little bit about Valerie's role at the Pregnancy Resource Center and what's happening there right now, but I would love to encourage you to get involved. Check out their website for more details, to sign up to serve, or to donate financially. Walking with scared, broken men and women is so important, and it's truly what the Lord has called us to do. Join us next week to hear another encouraging story, and be sure to subscribe or follow so you never miss an episode. Most importantly, I pray you know that no matter how far you or someone you love have run from God, it is never too late. There is always hope, because you are